5:30 so we can start the utility committee meeting. We're going to look at the ordinance that talks about how the utilities is going to use the proceeds of the 230 kV transmission line.
Oh, this is the ordinance. Yeah, this is actually, we just need approval. The overall approval is because we are filing testimony, and this is the final step before our April 10th hearing in front of the IURC, and that'll be the last step in this. To date, we don't have any interveners. We've got a nice business working relationship with Duke. It looks like they're possibly going to be on board to do the O&M work. So to this point has gone really well. We haven't. It's just a good business decision for us. This is the final step before we go in front of them. We've already had public hearings with the OUCC, the Indiana Office of Utility Consumer Council. That went well. We did meet informally with the IURC. That went really well. Our final piece is we submitted our testimony, and then we'll have a hearing and official testimony given on April 10th, and then that should be the final closing. It's been a lot of steps.
How long after that will they give you a decision?
Oh, Kelly, what do you think?
They said 30 to 60 days, but with this all being kind of in the book the day of the hearing, that they expected it to be 30 days, because it just takes a while to draft an order, and then actually our council is going to be drafting a proposed order with the hope that that facilitates them getting it done. The judge that's handling our case is retiring sometime here this summer, I think, this spring or summer. So it's on the way out the door, so.
The O&M, what, can you tell us what that means? You say Duke is going to do the O&M work, what's that mean?
So we pay Duke now to maintain the line. So it's an expense to us now. Grid Alliance and Duke are in negotiations for Duke to continue doing that maintenance work on that line without interruption. In addition to that, they've also contracted with us to do the triage work. So if this is something we've never done with them before, that is, if there's an outage, we'll be the first on the scene to investigate it. We'll make the area safe and then get in touch with the O&M provider, which we hope is going to be Duke, to then come out and provide the service. So this would be going from a cost to us to us being on a maintenance contract with them. Now, we're not authorized to do work on that 230 kV line. That's why we've never maintained it ourselves. We've had to contract that out. That's just a higher energy than our guys are allowed to work on. But we can go there and make it safe. We can ground the lines if they're down, and we can make the area safe and then report it in to Duke. So they're going to pay us to do that. So that'll switch actually from an expense to at least a labor and materials kind of cost with us, or a benefit to us. So that's a positive thing. And then, of course, with this, the benefit to us is this really takes the liability away from us of maintaining this line and gives it to a transmission company that does this for a living. They'll get cost recovery from MISO, which we never could. It just was always sometimes a capital expense, but a lot of times just an expense for us to maintain it. And of course, it was built in the early 80s, and most of that equipment in there is 1980s era. So their proposal that we've seen is to upgrade that equipment right at the very beginning. That's very beneficial to us. That will help with our reliability and our usage on that line. So those are all things that have been written in and that we're expecting.
ISO charges you were talking about, though we could never put ours on. So in a roundabout way, we'd come back and help pay for that. That's all part of that MISO charge that you pay on
Yeah,
a monthly
yeah.
basis. I mean, it would be minimal in comparison.
It would be minimal. Keep in mind is, if you remember, one of the things that we talked about in past was Grid Alliance could never charge us to use that line. So I think we put it on there for 35 years, Kelly. I think that's what we came up. But their intention would never be to charge us. We just put that on for our own board's sake.
Sure.
We would have a slight MISO carrying charge to be on that line for any upgrade, but the benefit of that, and just like any utility, it's spread out amongst every MISO user,
Right.
not just us.
Right.
So when we ran the calculations on it, it was even less than our maintenance contract.
Oh, really? So that's
very-
good.
Yeah, and we'll get the benefit of all the updates. The second transformer, which is a very big deal to us, and some other things that are very expensive that we could never afford to upgrade. So,
We're all good to move this to our special council meeting here in a few meetings? Yep. Okay, any other questions?
So all the money it says goes there to your utilities depreciation and replacement fund?
yeah, so the way it was proposed and accepted by the IURC and the OUCC was that the money would go into capital improvements and to the DNR of the utility itself. So that's in my testimony that I'll be giving on April 10th.
Okay.
So you're in a pickle if we don't do that, huh?
It's already submitted.
I don't know who drafted
Just
it.
that there was a misspelling of the word approved.
Yeah, the word approved in the third whereas spelled, I don't know who drafted that.
A lawyer?
Not mine.
No, well, one we pay money to. No, not you.
What I do for a living, sorry.
Okay,
Suzie, where'd you see that? Just real quick.
The third whereas approved is misspelled.
Bottom line there.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
April 10, 2025, and
Yeah.
if approved.
Yeah, I see it.
any other questions or comments? Right, we'll close the utility committee meeting at 5:37.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
No.
Thanks for listening.
Is that what you said, 5:37? Okay.
Sorry about the kiosk not working. It's connected to Frontier. So we're working, in another week or two, we'll have redundancy on both of those, but who knew that they'd have so many outages?
What does that mean?
Frontier is out again, the
What do you mean by
Frontier,
redundancy on both?
oh, we're getting a secondary Wi-Fi source for that. So if one goes out, we'll have another system that will,
Give me the book.
Next time Frontier goes down, the backup system will kick in and
Then we'll
still
have-
be able to process payments.
Thank you, Greg.
thanks.
All right, it's 5:37 or close to it, and we'll start the Finance Committee meeting. Sent you guys quite a bit of information, trying to kind of bring you up to speed with all the work that, quite honestly, Malcolm's done 90% of this. He's been working real hard towards some different grant opportunities. He's lined up. We looked at Anderson's and Harris Glass to replace all the windows in the memorial home, and Anderson's never did give us a quote. Harris gave us a quote that was approximately just under $200,000 to replace them all, but I'm not sure if that was just for the windows. I can't recall offhand, or if that was to buy the windows and put them in. But their bid was right under it was like $196,000. And in talking with, Indiana Landmarks and others for future grant opportunities, restoration of the windows that we had was more favorable towards grant funding. So Indiana Landmarks actually gave us the name of a couple people, and we've got them kind of lined up to go as long as we can put the funding in place to get them started. They'd be starting around June 1st, but we don't want to apply for any grants without knowing that there's funding in place if we get those grants. So what we're looking at here, and I think it's pretty well spelled out in some of the information that I provided you with. If you go to the, kind of the work summary plan that Malcolm put together there, you'll see that we've got two different grants we're getting ready. Both of them are due to be, you have to apply by March the 31st. So the one is a possible $50,000 grant, and the second one is a $15,000 grant. And both of these could be applied towards the restoration of the windows. So the request would be to fund the whole project at $117,000, not knowing whether or not you're going to get the grants. But the hope would be that we wouldn't need that amount. We'd need, we could possibly need only $52,000 if we got both grant opportunities. But since there's no assurance that you're going to get any of them, the request would be for the whole amount. This would be to do the windows on the east side of the memorial home and the west side of the memorial home. Be the cost of restoration of those windows, plus we had to factor in scaffolding, which I think is in the spreadsheet that you guys got. There's just no way to work on those without the scaffolding. We'd have professional scaffolding brought in, set up, and then we would have to check it every day to make sure it's safe for the workers to go up there and work off of it, so to reduce the liability that we'd have on that project. And the part of that would be is then we can apply that money hopefully towards the Okra grant match also. The money that we would spend would go towards the 10% match on an Okra grant. So if everything was, if everything worked out well, we could end up not having to put out a whole lot of money and get three different grants that would amount to over $800,000. The Okra grant is due in June, I believe it is, but there's a study, and this is the other part of the request for Browning Day to do the historical structural review. And part of that review is required for the Okra grant. They did this back in 2017, and they would come back, have to check to see what's happened to the building since 2017, update their study, and then have that done, I believe it's by mid-May, and he projected it would take him 8 weeks. That's kind of why the rush is today to consider whether or not to fund that contract for Jonathan Young at Browning Day. So all said and done, if there's any questions, I tried to lay this out as best I could. Maybe I even confused you with what I sent you, but we'd be requesting to use the ARPA funds we had previously approved to use on the memorial home for up to $117,000, and we'd use our non-reverting Logan Memorial Home Fund for up to $60,000 for the Jonathan Young contract. We currently, that would, if we had to spend the whole amount, that would basically wipe out what we had allocated from the ARPA fund and our non-reverting. And I brought some spreadsheets here for you guys. I printed these off today since my computer wasn't working, but I marked on this. This is our fund balances as the end of February of this year, and we had $129,930 in there, but we also had in our budget for $200,000 to be transferred from the general fund into that fund this year. So basically, the Logansport Memorial Home Non-Reverting Fund has $329,930 in it, and we'd be requesting to use $60,000 out of there.
Plus the 117?
117 would come out of, if you look up above on here, that would come out of the ARP Fiscal Recovery
Oh,
Fund.
The two, okay. But the $117,000 doesn't cover all of the windows in the memorial home? It only covers
No,
the
the-
east side and the west side?
East side and west side, and the north and south side windows would be part of the Okra grant that we'd apply for. And the goal is, we talked to Tim Carson, who's with, I never get it right, Northern,
North Central Indiana Regional Planning Council.
there you go. He's the one we're working with.
Yeah, that one.
If you've met him, he's now on our RDC board also. He lives here in Logansport, and he's working with Malcolm pretty closely. And any of the work that we apply for in the Okra grant has to be exterior work. So instead of continuing on with the windows, we would put the rest of the windows in the Okra grant application, along with, I think I itemized in there different things, the masonry, the porches, ADA compliance up around the building.
You said, well, we couldn't spend money on. But I just want to clarify that you're saying that we're going to, the $117,000 for the windows, do we have to approve that the money's, we've already accepted the bid from Harris Glass, or that's the only one we have? and
But we
have to-
didn't accept Harris Glass. We hired two contractors that Indiana Landmark, or we will hire them. We've got contracts from them offering to work. If you look at that spreadsheet, that basically shows you, they both work, their restoration work's done by the hour. And it's kind of broke down by what they estimate the time would be to do the windows on those two sides of the building. One would be working on the east side of the building, the other would be working on the west side of the building. And you have to have all of this work completed before you'd start into an Okra grant, so there's no confusion over how the money's being spent or anything like that. But the one fellow is actually, I think I brought this up at the last meeting, Gene Hardy, who worked for Steinbergers for years here in town. His son is one of the contractors that we're looking at. He lives up in South Bend now, up in that area. And he has bid on doing some of the windows. So
So who looked at all this? I mean, we haven't seen these bids, or who looked at all this stuff for the bids for the windows, and is Malcolm been doing it?
I've
Have you
had the
done it?
bids, and Malcolm's had the bids, and yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how we've, Malcolm, you want to come on up? We're kind of in the middle here, but
Starting late.
that's all right. That's all right.
Any questions that needed answering before?
I was just kind of explaining to them the whole process that we're going through here, kind of walked them through the summer work plan and
Right, okay.
and what the objective is, but
Yep. The first thing you need to know is that these windows they're bad shape. I mean, wood's rotting out, we're losing glass. There's two windows, the only sheet of plastic's keeping the rain out. So something really we have to move on. We have been looking, we have actually not identified a local contractor yet that's willing to do the work. We have two contractors that were on the Indiana Landmarks contractor list. They're coming from out of town, Plymouth and South Bend. They were going to just come in with a mobile home and set up camp for the summer at Sycamore or France Park. So we're still hopeful, in fact, that we can find some local folks, more local than that. And Indiana Landmarks is putting on a window restoration workshop June 6th and 7th at the Emmaus House. So I've been passing that information on to everyone, but I've talked to half a dozen local contractors, and they say it's just a little too special type of work for them to tackle. But the two contractors that we have they definitely know what they're doing and have done historical restoration work before. The cost for restoration is still considerably less than the cost of window replacement with new windows. So I do think that one of the biggest risks that we have is not having a contractor. And if we lose another year, I mean, it's not going to be, good for the building, for sure. So what we would like, what Dave and I have talked about is if the council will approve that we would, even though we're still kind of waiting to see how some of this grant money comes in, at least would try to lock in a contractor with some assurance that they'll have the work so we can maybe get them on board, possibly even bonded, to have them on the hook for, as soon as we can get the ball rolling.
You said these Logansport Landmarks is hosting a window workshop, is that correct?
The Indiana Landmarks have two craftsmen that will be here. One is Deb Parcells, kind of our local liaison with Indiana Landmarks. Her husband and another gentleman are putting on the workshop. They're actually going to take windows out of the Emmaus House and have attendees, two-day workshop, do an actual window restoration for the Emmaus House as part of their training.
When would that workshop be?
It'll be at the Emmaus House, June 6th and 7th. It'll be in April, and on Indiana Landmarks, there'll be a registration page that I can share with you as soon as but it's not out yet.
Where's the Emmaus House at?
Well,
The homeless shelter?
Jason Mitchell works.
Is it the homeless shelter?
Yeah, the old St. Vincent School building.
thank you.
Anyone who's interested?
I think they have a room for a dozen attendees, so I assume that the first 12 that sign up.
And I believe the cost, if I read the cost right, it was $150.
There is a fee, $150, unless a person's a member of Indiana Landmarks, it's $125, but yeah, there is a fee. So they get the best of both worlds. They get their windows restored and they collect $150 when they go around the board.
Anyone have any questions about what you've got there to look at or consider, or any concern?
Type of windows? What type of windows are you looking at? Are you restoring them, or are you replacing them?
They are restoration, so they'll take the existing windows out, strip them down to bare wood, take the glass out, reglaze them, put them back together. If there's missing wood, they'll replace it with a similar hardwood that,
Okay. What about that one window, I believe, on the west side, it's just 2x4s, like you said, is in bad shape? It looked like it might have broke the whole frame, and they replaced it with...
replace the glass, replace the hardware.
Okay.
And then, of course, the working mechanisms, the
Weights and stuff?
weights and, all drawworks, all that will be replaced with new, and they should be functional when they're done.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, General.
Yeah.
Any other questions or concerns? You want to move this forward for the special council meeting? All right.
I'll just add before I sit down, and started doing the environmental testing today. So the contractors are quoted based upon just the assumption that it's lead-based paint, that would use safe lead restoration techniques, and HEPA filters, and collect all the dust and everything. So if we get good news that it's not lead paint, that'll be better, but we're planning that it probably is lead.
Yeah. Thank you, Malcolm. Okay, it's 5:53. I'll close the Finance Committee meeting.
Excuse me, 5:54 PM. It is Monday, March 10th, 2025. I'm Mayor Chris Martin, calling to order the Logansport Common Council special called session. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cameron Austin. Scott Petey. Present. Chris Howard.
Present.
Susie Wamsley.
President?
Dave Morris.
Present.
Haley Zinsmaster.
Present.
BJ Cox.
Present.
All right. I just want to start out by saying thank you to Malcolm, Gerald, and the city council, because this memorial home has been stressful for probably decades. And you know, there was always concepts of a plan and people trying to figure it out, but with that infighting of politics, imagine what happens. And this is what happens when you don't care about politics, care about our community. So thank you, city council, and thank you, Malcolm, for doing this. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Greg and the utilities, for looking at ways to save us money and make us money too. So appreciate that. You and your team have done a great job. All right, reports from committees, boards, and commissions.
We had a utility committee meeting before this where we discussed the proposed ordinance on the use of what they're going to do with the proceeds from the sale of the 230 kV transmission line, and that will be moved to this meeting.
Also had a finance committee meeting to discuss funding for the window restoration as well as the funding for a historic structural review to be done towards an Okra grant.
On to new business, ordinance 2025-11. Councilman Morse?
Ordinance 2025-11, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, regarding proceeds of the sale of a 230 kV transmission line to Logansport Utilities. Make a motion to vote on ordinance 2025-11.
Second?
Any further discussion?
I would make a motion to suspend the rules on this. I think timeliness was on March 24th. You needed this passed.
Kelly, was it March 24th we needed it so they could submit it before the April 10th?
I think that was the last date that he.
Yes. Yes, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Second on suspending the rules.
Call for question on suspension of rules.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Haley Zensmaster,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-11, rules suspended. Do I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2025-11?
Second.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Haley Zensmaster,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
BJ Cox.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-11 passes with suspension of rules.
I want to thank the utility committee for hearing all of this. Thank you for trying to understand it. And Kelly, it's been a year and a half, so thank you for your participation and your guidance. And, you know, we wouldn't have gotten it this far, certainly without you being there. So there were many days we sat in legal offices where I said, what's next? And he guided me through that. So it was a journey for sure. So
Zoomed a lot of meetings.
we did Zoom a lot of meetings. There was a lot of attorneys that made a lot of money. That was, it wasn't Kelly.
All right.
Yeah.
Next is resolution 2024-113. Councilman Petey?
Resolution 2024-113, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, appropriating funds for a historic structural report and restoration of windows at the Logansport and Cass County Memorial Center. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on resolution 2024-113, please.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Haley Zensmaster,
Yes.
BJ Cox.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-113 passes. Any other public comments? Anyone who'd like to make a comment? All right. Seeing none, council member comments.
Just one, I think that, I just want to go back to the memorial home. I appreciate the support on this funding, and I know that, between Malcolm and I, he spends more time up there than I do. We've spent a lot of time, got a lot of questions from the community. The interest is there in restoring this building, and I believe that by us investing in these next few steps, it's going to really pique the interest of the community, and I think it's going to lead to, one of the future projects is to do a local fundraising project to help restore this. So, and I believe that this is really going to jumpstart that. So I appreciate the support.
I was going to say the same thing, Dave, so thank you very much.
What's going on with the time clocks?
Time clocks. We had Small Electric come today, and they are going to give me a quote for the fire departments.
And have you started with the other areas? Other buildings?
What do you
Other
think?
departments, why can't the other departments start using them even though
I
the,
mean, they could, I just didn't think it'd be fair to make some departments use them when others couldn't log into them yet.
I think that we waited a long time to get this installation done, and if you know that you're just holding up on the fire departments because there's not enough, the process isn't ready yet, I think that the other departments should start using them. That's the whole purpose of paying for this. So I would recommend that we just have the other departments start clocking in, clocking out.
Fine with that.
What do you think?
Start like that on next Monday or?
Yeah, just go ahead and get it started.
Probably makes more sense to start with a pay period.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Thanks.
council member comments?
Just wondering, is Small's the only one you could find to look at this project?
Well,
I'm just
asked
kidding.
everyone else and they never got back with us and returned my calls, so.
Sounds about right. All right, miscellaneous business and any matters not already considered, including ADA Section 504 compliance or concerns. Seeing no one, do we have a motion to adjourn? Question?
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Susie Wamsa,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
BJ Cottons.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Have a great evening.